Let us pray. Blessed and loving Lord, I lift up to you and thank you for each and every person who is here tonight and each and every person who's going to be watching later on the recording, and for those who are just looking at the slides. I thank you for their enthusiasm, their excitement, their willingness to do the ministry you have put in front of us. Now I ask you to encourage us, empower us, and put just the right words in our mouths when we have the opportunity to talk to people. We ask all this in your gracious name. Amen. All right. I just got a note that my battery is running low. It should be plugged in. Let me see what's going on. I see. Okay. We're back. All righty. Hey, Ray. Good to see you.
Hi, good to see you.
All right. Let us go ahead and share screen. And get rid of that. Well, I went to the wrong, there we go. All right. If you haven't already, please go ahead and mute your phone, computer, whatever you're on. It'll just make life a little bit easier for everyone. And, I say this usually more than once, but I just really want to keep emphasizing it. I throw out all kinds of ideas at you. You're not going to be able to do them all. I don't want you to feel upset or discouraged. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed and stop. In fact, at times I wonder maybe I should narrow it down and just give one or two ideas. But then I'm afraid I'll have missed the idea that's perfect in your context. And that's what matters, what works in your context. So I'm giving you lots of things. Just be careful. And remember, you're never alone. I'm always here to help. You have my email. There's my phone number. And particularly if you need help brainstorming priorities, you say, well, here's 5 interesting ideas. We aren't sure which one to do. Just ask. I'd be happy to talk it through with you. Today, what I'm hoping you will leave with is, first of all, a review of what we have done in the past, the focus on our real goals, the idea of evangelism versus pre-evangelism, and then a look at the challenges we face, the opportunities God is giving to us, and an overview of the process I recommend. Now, that's going to take less than half of our time, but then we're going to dive deeply into the blessing of the animals, but I'm doing that using it as an example. The concepts that we'll talk about there work for virtually any event, and also have some few thoughts about Halloween. And at the end, I have some special offers for you, and everything's free. If you cannot stay for the Q&A, put your questions, ideas in the chat with your name, and I'll answer via email or just email me directly, whatever's the easiest way. So the question is, will it work? Will what I'm talking about work? Well, with about 90% certainty, I can show you how to bring people to and sometimes into your doors. But that's not the goal. The goal is not to increase attendance or budget, because those are selfish goals. Those are about us. Those are not about our neighbors, about the other people. Our goal is to help people grow closer to God. If we do that by word and example, to quote our prayer book, some new people will want to associate with us. And the benefits of that include having more people to help with ministry, more attendance on Sunday morning, more increase in income. But those are fringe benefits, if you will. For example, people might help in the food pantry before they attend Sunday worship. So the question is, if God created all human beings with the desire to grow closer to God, which I firmly believe did happen, why aren't our churches full? Why aren't we just overwhelmed with people? And the answer is simple. The answer is we're not trusted. One key reason people stay away is that Christians and churches have a very bad reputation among many people. And this is hard to get across to many of our members. People who've attended church all their lives find it difficult to believe anyone doesn't trust the church, even when you talk to them about it. But what we have is churches with a political focus, and that's on both sides. Churches that have experienced sexual abuse, financial misuse, and churches that just express a hatred of some groups of people. Plus, we have the problem of habits and schedules. People are doing something on Sunday morning. They're not just sitting around wondering what to do. They have a habit. And one of the hardest things to change is habits. I've shown you this before, but I wanted to show it to you again just to remind you, and looking particularly at the left-hand column, what the question that was asked is, people who are self-identified Christians, what characteristics do you associate with Christians in general? What characteristics do Christians associate with Christians in general? It sounds good, and it's not. And certainly are some good things. 57% say we're giving, 56 compassionate, 55 loving, and so on. But what that also means is 43% of Christians could not say Christians were giving. 44% could not say Christians were compassionate. That shows that we have a poor reputation. We Christians, we churches have a poor reputation, even among some of our own. And I think if you think about that, we all can point to churches where we have seen a lack of respect. We've seen a lack of love. We've seen a lack of compassion. So we understand why people won't say that all Christians are giving, compassionate, loving, respectful. This graphic was actually done by my favorite graphic artist, my 17-year-old granddaughter. What I did is I presented her with the question for her and her cohort and her peers. Why would I connect with the church I believe is? And then I said, what kind of answers would you give would you place after the word is? Patriarchal. Okay, I'll get that word out. Dangerous for kids, hateful, arrogant, disrespectful, unwelcoming, unloving, stagnant. That was an interesting one. I hadn't come up with that one. Judgmental, selfish, corrupt, self-righteous, unforgiving. And again, I can point to churches that meet all of those characteristics, which explains the challenge. Would you want to associate with those people that I just described? Why would you expect others to do so? Why would you expect others to associate with such people? Because that's what they think of when church is mentioned. When we say St. Mark's Church, we hear St. Mark's. What they hear is St. Mark's Church, bold letters, capital letters. That's the primary word they hear. So is there any hope? Well, there's actually a great deal of hope. Let's look at the data. Basically, and I say 1 out of 3, some people would say 1 out of 2, some would say 1 out of 4. It's something in that bore. A whole lot of people are willing to talk about spirituality. They're not anxious. It's not high on their priority list. They're not likely to want to attend Sunday or other activities, at least at first. They're very cautious, very untrusting, with good reason. But they're open if they feel respectful and if it touches on their life concerns. Now, this is a third of Americans who are not already associated with a church are willing to talk about spirituality. That's what I mean by pre-evangelism, to have the conversations that make it possible to have the deep, meaningful conversation. We must help them become interested enough to participate. This research came out fairly recently. Barna is very good research. They use language in a way differently than the mainstream. They're a very evangelical association. So, for example, the way they use disciple or discipleship is different than how we would use it. But the bottom line is 87% of Christians age 55 and up want to keep growing spiritually. 87%. Now, some of those are already in churches, but an awful lot are not. So we have if you will, we have hungry people out there waiting to be fed, waiting to find out where they can be fed. This I put together as kind of a summary. I thought it might be one of the ways you might answer people in your church that are kind of skeptical. About 1 in 3 people who live near you are skeptical of churches, not exceptionally interested in learning more, but at some level would like to have a spiritual home and have spiritual conversations if they believe they will be safe. Key word there, safe. And I don't necessarily mean that physically, but they won't be attacked, criticized, hated for their opinions. And they will be allowed, encouraged to share their doubts and questions. If you're kind of hesitant about that word safe, think about some of the people, some of the churches you've heard who express hatred of gays and lesbians. So if somebody came in and said they felt being gay was okay with God, think about what would happen to them. They're scared to come in, and I don't blame them. Think of ways to make this openness to questions and doubts clear in your Facebook posts. We've got to change their opinion. We've got to let them know we're not that way. And what's fortunate is a person can despise the institution, can despise church, while loving your particular congregation. It's one of the reasons I recommend not using the word church very much. Try to use the word congregation more often as you possibly can use it instead of the word church. Our challenge is we need to acknowledge the evil they have seen in other congregations while explaining that's not us, and we have good things to share. Now, if you want to know how many people there are near you, these are 2 sources on the internet that you can go for information. The top one is actually much, much easier to use. The bottom one from the Episcopal Church has lots of good information, but it's difficult to get through it to find just raw numbers. Lots of percentages, but finding raw numbers is difficult. So the process that I recommend is a 3-stage process. It's actually 4th stage. I'm talking about pre-evangelism. Stage 4 is actually those deep, meaningful spiritual conversations that are my definition of evangelism. We begin with stage 1, which it probably has no personal interaction. This is your newspaper reports, it's your posters, your banners, your Facebook page, your website, all that kind of thing. And what we have to do is we have to interrupt their life. We have to intrigue them to know us, like us, and trust us at least a little bit to the point where they will interact with us. And again, that's still a testing phase. They come on a Sunday morning or they come to a blessing of the animals. They're still wondering, are they safe? They're still wondering, are we people they want to associate with? That's still very much a testing phase. And it's only after that that they may begin to gradually relate with us. And I'll talk about more than that in a minute. The big problem we run into many times among congregations is people who expect instant results. They say, hey, we put up an ad, but there's nobody new in the pews. It's going to take time. We have to change impressions. We have to change habits. That does not happen very often, doesn't happen very often overnight. So the process was to intrigue, interact, relate, but as far as importance goes, it's relate, interact, intrigue. If we don't build a relationship, the potential for somebody returning drops dramatically. And yeah, it's possible for somebody to make the jump from a flower sale buyer to an active member. It would make the jump from their first interaction with the church being something like a flower sale or a yard sale or a blessing of the animals, and over time become an active member. But that is not an easy thing to accomplish. It takes some effort. It's easy in that it's not difficult things to do, but it does take effort on our part. That's one of the things I think we need to keep in mind. It used to be in the 50s and 60s, we expected people to just show up at church. They came to us. That's no longer the case. We have to be more scriptural about it, more like the early church. We have to go to them. To build a relationship, it's all about communication. We have to get their contact information. If we don't have a way to contact them, we can't really build a relationship. And then we follow up, we communicate, and not for just a day or a week or a couple of weeks, but for a long period of time. Yes, the handwritten note from the rector the day after their first visit on a Sunday is very meaningful and helpful. Nothing wrong with that. It's a fine thing to do. But if that's the end of it, we probably won't have any response. The most important thing we do is relate to the new people. I said a whole lot more last time, but in summary, I recommend texting weekly, brief, interesting, friendly messages for an extended period. And I'll talk more about how I can help you near the very end. Last webinar slides included some sample text just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. They're not hard to do. The most difficult thing a lot of times is to cull them down so they fit within the number of characters you're given. Absolutely important, we get their contact information, and most important, their first name and phone number. If I have a first name and phone number, I have a chance to build a relationship. Without that, I don't have much of a chance. And as I talked about last time, texting is more effective because emails are not read as often. If all you have is an email, use that. Don't misunderstand me. But emails are not read as often. They're read maybe 30% of the time. And there's a lot of research on that. Whereas texting is at least glanced at over 90% of the time. And again, if you have any questions or you need resources in doing this, please ask me. The problem we run into is too often our guest feels like a ghost. They've just drifted through our community and drifted out without having an impact. And that's particularly true of our online guests. And I talked a lot about this at the last time, and I invite you to go back and look at that. So I said stage one is to intrigue them. Well, always important to ask, what are we trying to accomplish? And surprisingly, the primary objective is not an attendance at an event, even Sunday. The initial objective is to introduce the church to the community and to those individuals within the community and build good impressions of the church. And let me rephrase that, build good impressions of the congregation. As part of that, we're building a habit of them being interested in reading our posts, hearing about us. Secondarily, we're interested in them in a specific event as something which might just possibly be good to attend. Third, we seek ways to tell them about our church, our congregation. Again, I gave you a whole lot of good stuff on this in the last webinar, but the big question that I invite you to think about is when somebody comes to your property, be it for a yard sale, be it for a Sunday service, be it for a neighborhood association meeting, they come into your property. What do they know as they leave they did not know as they arrived? Which of those negative impressions have they been given information to change, to help them change that impression? And then we invite them to attend. Notice we invite them. We don't announce the event. And again, in the 50s and 60s, it may have been good enough to say our worship service is at 9 a.m. That's no longer the case. If that's all they needed, they would find that out and come attend without any further. We need to invite them. Announcing is not inviting. We need to invite them. And again, it could be Sunday, it could be the yard sale, it could be anything. As we do this, we want to be assertive. We want to keep being very open about our invitations, about our information, without ever being aggressive. If you've taken Stewardship 101, you've heard some variation of if you don't ask, you won't get. Well, the same thing applies here. If we don't invite, we're never going to see them again. So how do you do all this? Well, the goals for any event, including Sunday morning. Now, remember I said we had those goals in our promotion that began with people getting to know the congregation, getting to know something about the congregation. Now we're at the point where we're interested in having people attend something. Last time we covered the non-social media invitations, posters rather, all that. This time I'm going to talk primarily about social media. Have people glad they came is one of the goals. Have people learn about your church, what I just talked about. Get their contact information. I'm going to talk about that some more as we go through. So first of all, we got to grab their attention. First step for all promotions. This is true if you watch television, read the newspaper, whatever. They understand that. The first thing you've got to do is people are bombarded with thousands of messages every day. We have to grab their attention. We all make priority decisions every moment about which message we will pay attention to. Church is not high on most people's priority list, actually not a priority at all. Think about this. You're watching TV, a commercial comes on for something you're not interested, another one you're not interested, a third one you're not interested. The fourth one is about something you need. Which one do you pay attention to? You probably don't even remember what the first three were, but you remember the fourth one. That's what we've got to do. We've got to help them understand that we have something they need. We've got to find that word, that phrase, that graphic that grabs a person's attention, and then a message which keeps their attention. If you think back, and I know not many people are buying newspapers anymore, not as many as used to, but think about it. You got about a half a second would be the headline on a newspaper. Just grab their attention, or they're not even going to bother to read the article. Then you have about 3 to 5 seconds to keep their attention. That's the first paragraph on a newspaper. Grab their attention, keep their attention so they'll read on. In our case, graphics work best with only a very few words. And, I can remember when the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and those papers would never use a photograph, or almost never. Now they're all about graphics. They figured out that graphics grab people's attention much more quickly than words do. Questions work better than statements. If I ask you a question, the normal, natural response is to interact with me. So Blessing the Animals is mildly interested. Pet Festival, a bit more interesting, and we'll talk about this in a moment. But want to enjoy time with other pet owners? My turning that into a question, you're inclined to interact with me. Then we have to keep their attention. Again, at this point, the address is still of no importance until they decide they are interested. The fact that you're at 100 North Main Street is of no importance if they have no intention of going there. This very much applies to general church announcements. I can't tell you how many churches waste extremely valuable space on Facebook, Google Maps, all that, by talking about their physical address and service times to people who are not interested in them. You have to get them interested before that other stuff matters. The headline opening sentence will determine if you meet any of your goals that make them exciting. There's an old saying that the title of your class says more about the attendance than the material you present. The title will have more to do with the attendance than the material you present, because people aren't interested enough, they won't even know what you're presenting. So we can't promise your pet will behave better, but you never know. Churches have long focused on caring for the environment, including animals. This next one is probably a little long, but you could subdivide it. We are hosting a pet festival in honor of St. Francis, which will include displays by many animal-related organizations and a chance to have your pet blessed, plus giveaways. There's a lot of information there. You'd probably break it into subcategories. Notice, though, I made a point of getting the words pet or animal in there in under a half a second. If I grab their attention at first, then it's likely they heard that the church is concerned about animals, is concerned about God's creation, whether or not they attend that day or not. Their opinion of the church has been changed, at least in a tiny way. So then the challenge is to maintain their attention. We've grabbed their attention and kept it for just a few seconds. Now the challenge is to maintain their attendance for about 20 to 30 seconds to really get them interested in the event. Again, whether or not they ultimately attend. Although by this time, they're what we'd call a warm prospect. They're highly likely to think about attending. The primary goal remains creating a good impression of your church. Attendance is still down the priority list. Your address, dates, times are still not essential because the people aren't interested in them. So what would interest them? Well, I invite you to think about a person who does not know your church and has a somewhat negative impression of churches in general, what I talked about in the negative slide. So what would take a person like that who's basically disinterested and even negative and turn them around to at least being neutral, if not slightly positive? Festival is a word I'd encourage you to think about using, or some variation. A festival focused on pets and including a blessing of your pet. Displays and fun for adults and children. Fun. A photograph of your pet or stuffed animal can be blessed. Obviously, you need to check that out with your clergy. And then tell more about what's going on. See our website or Facebook page, and I'll show you in a second the easiest way to do that. Intrigue them, social media, whether or not you're big on Facebook or Instagram or you hate it. This is still the most effective mechanism. I can reach thousands of potential people for free, for potential attendees for free, which I can't do any other way. Now, though, that's when we start to get to the point to provide the details. We've gotten them interested. We've gotten them to look at our stuff and say, well, maybe this is something I'm interested in. Now we provide the church name, the physical address, the date, the times, anything that matters. One of the things you'll see later is I offer to review your website and Facebook pages just as an outsider. Take a look at them and see what I see and respond back to you, give you maybe some input. Probably 20% of the churches whose website and Facebook pages I review do not have their physical address on the website. They do not have their If I wanted to attend St. Swithin's, I don't know where it is. I can't enter their address into my mapping software because it's not there, or at least I have to dig for several minutes to find it somewhere on their website. So you want to have that obvious when it becomes time to make it, when it is something people are interested in, you want to make it obvious. Include a web page, a web address to a page specifically about this. Now, I said web address. I'll show you the Facebook event. You might use that instead of a web page, and that's fine. That's wonderful. But whatever you do, go directly to what they want to find. The rule is, or the research says, every time you ask people to click one more, you go to the main page of the website and they got to click again, you're going to lose a third of the people. A QR code can be great, particularly on things like a poster. When you post on your page, multiple posts are the way to go. Now, you don't necessarily have to develop everything from scratch. You can use the same background and just add new information. That's a way to really grab their attention. So, for example, here, and if I were to do this, as I look at this, I say the veterinarian, Dr. John Smith, will get, that's too small. That should be bolder, stand out more, probably in a different color from the heading, just to make, that's the information you want to get across. But what I've done is I've just kind of made things up that we can have 5 different posts that are basically the same. And that background, by the way, is just off the internet. You can grab things like that very easily without having to design it from scratch. You want to stay away from things that are copyrighted, obviously, but there's lots of stuff that's not. The same graphic can be used as an invite card for kids and adults to hand out, and I talked about this some last time. It can also be boosted as an ad, and I gave you a tutorial. I think I have that in a minute. These are also perfect for Nextdoor.com, and you can use the basic principles for just about any event. Create a Facebook event. Yeah, this is what an event looks like. This actually comes from Holy Family Episcopal Church in Laurel Springs, New Jersey. They do an excellent job. If you want to see things well done, follow their Facebook page. But it basically provides all the information that a person could need in one place. You can QR code to this if you wanted to, so that people can jump to it and get it very easily. Create those for your various events. You can also do the same thing on Instagram. The key here is these are effective because Facebook shows them to a broader audience. If you were to put the same information on a post, Facebook would not show it to all that many people. An event, Facebook shows more broadly. It's just one of their quirks. Member sharing is the key. If you want to get the information out about your event, you need to have people comment and share. Without shares, only a percentage of your followers will see it, because Facebook wants you to buy an ad. They don't want people to get it for free. So the best idea is recruit at least 3 to 5 people to promise to share everything. And shut-ins can be great for this. It's a great way for a shut-in to help their church. This then goes to more of your members and lots of non-members. And what's even better than just simply sharing is a quick comment. The more, the better, but it doesn't have to be very much. Like I say, this looks like fun. I will have my goldfish blessed. And I do have a training piece on how to do this if you want to ask me for it. Consider using the @member trick. Example, @John Smith. Here, let me show you on the next page what I mean by this. Either in the first comment or in the text itself, you put @John Smith, @Mary Jones. What that does is it goes directly to them. So if those are the 4 or 5 people who have promised to comment and share, you make sure they see it. If you are an administrator on your church platform, you can use in that same place, use @followers. That goes to many more of your followers. You can only use that once per week, but that's a good way to expand your reach from maybe, and there's all kind of, Facebook won't tell you what the actual numbers are, but most of the experts say if you're lucky, your basic post will get to 20% of your followers. @followers, it'll get to 80% or more. Facebook groups. is another extremely important tool and very easy to use. On a computer, on your Facebook page, there's a groups icon. It's supposed to be multiple heads in a semicircle, doesn't look much like that, or under menu on your phone. Type in the name of your town and join as many as appropriate. Now, unless you're doing a yard sale, I wouldn't join the yard sale groups. But if you're doing them, those are a great way to reach out and let people know about your upcoming yard sale. Type in the name of all surrounding towns, counties, go out at least 10 miles. The tough part, look over their rules, their reason for being. Some won't take ads, so it has to be clearly an announcement. A few won't take posts from church. Get a church member to join and post. Some get upset. What I meant is that some will not take posts if they come from the church directly. They'll take posts about a church. Some get upset if you post too often. I don't worry about it. I just go ahead, and if they don't allow it, they don't allow it. Most of the time, the rules aren't clear. Easiest thing to do is kind of leaf through their last week's worth of posts and get a feel for what kind of things they accept. Don't be surprised to be blocked on some. That's okay. Let's say at the moment you have no connections with any of these groups, and you find 10 groups. 5 of them don't let you post, which would be a very high percentage. But that still means there's 5 that you are now members of and posting on that you weren't before. So that's a great start. If you know church members are group members, use the @Smith trick to get them to comment. This is another great project for shut-ins. This is the kind of thing I meant. This is Mount Airy in North Carolina. I think we may have a couple people from Mount Airy in Maryland on tonight. You can easily double your reach, probably more than double it, with very little effort. Key is finding and joining these groups. Try to use different graphics on each or different headlines. Back to what I showed you, the 5 different posts, all by the same basic graphic, but with different information. You might post the different one on each of the groups because there'll be a lot of overlap. But look at this. This, what's going on, Mount Airy, North Carolina, has 10,000 members. North Carolina Events and Happenings has 15,000 members. Now, obviously, there's some overlap there. There's probably a lot of the people are members of both. But you can get a minimum of probably 20,000 people potentially seeing your posts, which is a whole lot more than the people following you. So if you just put it on your on your Facebook page, only your followers will initially see it or have the potential to see it. That probably is, a few hundred, which isn't bad. But here I've got probably 20,000, and there were actually a lot more. Mount Airy, for some reason, I think we had 10 groups we finally signed up on. Here's another fun thing to do. Have a person, not the church, post something like this. Have fun. My dog needs to be blessed. Any church is willing to try. Have fun with it. The key is to have somebody waiting for that to be posted who immediately responds. You want your church to be the first one to respond. Other churches will respond, but you want to be in there first. Another member immediately responds. St. Paul's is doing this next Saturday. So that gives us the opportunity to ask a question, for somebody to ask another question, like, where is it? What time is it? You can build that conversation. Another member might comment on their post, I'm bringing my goldfish, or I'm bringing a photo of my snake. That kind of stuff. You build a conversation that will be shown to a whole lot of people. And you start out just having fun with it. This works well for Nextdoor.com. It's just a tad harder because fewer people are members, but it's the same concept works well with them. Facebook and Instagram, very focused on reels and stories right now. They're competing with TikTok. This does not require you to dance in the kitchen singing, like the kind of the standard TikTok video goes. Doesn't have to be anything like that. It's just a short vertical video, 90 seconds long. You just hold your phone in a vertical position. You video a person with their pet talking about the pet festival. You know, I am so excited to have to go and hear from these groups that are coming. You know, you can work out a script better than I just did. You could do a number of them mentioning different aspects. One could talk about the fact that a veterinarian is coming and is giving away a free night stay at their location. That'll be a drawing for that. Another one might talk about the fact that the police canine unit is coming. Speak the information, including the city and state. Facebook is using AI more and more, as is everybody, and they're listening to what you say so they know where to show it. You want it shown near you. You don't want it shown 3 states away. Try to do the same thing. Put that same information, the key information, in text on your screen. Again, that helps Facebook. And if you need help doing any of that, let me know. You can post on Facebook Reels, Stories, Instagram. Get your people to share. That helps a great deal. The keys I mentioned were 90 seconds, mentioning and write out the location of your church. Remember, the viewer must be intrigued by the very first screen. If they don't click on it to watch it, the rest of what you have is useless. You have to have something that makes them want to do that. You probably feel uncomfortable doing this, or lots of people will. So do something easy. Just do something very simple. And then get on to the fancier stuff. Keep it simple. Here's 2 tutorials that would help you understand how to do this better than my little brief explanation. And they're both by a man named Jerry Potter. He's my go-to person. Much of his stuff is free, so when you're looking at it, if you want to subscribe and get on his mailing list. Paid ads. $30 will reach a minimum of 2,000 households. That's if you just do a general ad. If you narrow it down to specific special interests, it'll be fewer, but there'll be people who are more likely to be interested. Obviously, you spend more money, you get more views. And there's my training video on it. The keys, be careful on the geographic area. I would go out 5 to 10 miles, no further. I would rather have 2,000 households within 10 miles see the ad than have some that are 20 or 30 miles away. The default is nationwide. That's the one real watch out for. When you're looking at the video, at the tutorial, I talk about that. Be very careful. Most of the things you can just leave their default setting, and that's fine. But the default for the area is the United States. You don't want that. You can specify interests. For example, for the blessing of the animals, you can do dogs, cats, fish, pets, animals. For a vacation Bible school, you could do parents. There's lots of those things you can do. If you were doing something musically, you could limit it to people who are interested in music. I would rather have somebody who ordered pet food see the blessing of the animals ad than someone who has shown no interest. Now, I know the person who has not acknowledged an interest on Facebook may still be interested, but I don't know that. The one who has ordered pet food, I'm pretty darn sure they're interested in pets. And yeah, it's a bit creepy how much the internet knows about our daily lives. It's more than a bit creepy, but it's there. You might as well use it. Basically, I would show it Monday through the day before your event. So if your event's on a Saturday, Monday through Friday. If your event's on Sunday, Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday. And $30 is not a bad, that's usually my go-to amount. I don't know where I ever came up with that. But again, 2,000, sometimes 3,000 households is pretty good coverage. Nextdoor.com, it's very similar, except they're even more careful. They don't want you to run an ad. They want to have personal posts. Nextdoor.com, their whole thing is neighbor talking to neighbor. So you have to phrase it personally. Rather than saying St. Paul's Church will have a blessing of the animals, that's an announcement bordering on an ad. Rather, you have a person say, I plan to have my pets blessed at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. Excuse me. Again, respond to each other. Same thing I talked about either before. Commenting is important here. Create several graphics or paragraphs and have people post them in their neighborhoods. There'll be overlap, so that's why it's good to have multiple posts showing up. If you go to your Nextdoor page, either on the computer or on your cell phone, there's a neighborhoods, plural button. Click on that and then click on make yours reach out to all the possible neighbors. It'll greatly expand your reach. The whole key to this is finding out who in your congregation is on Nextdoor and recruiting them to help. Real quick, a few others. LinkedIn, if you have somebody who's already active, go ahead. I would think Facebook, Instagram, Nextdoor is a higher priority, but if there's somebody who's ready to jump on LinkedIn, that's fine. It can have some impact. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, so you would think it's a good choice. Downside, it's a second step platform. By that I mean people have to be looking for your event or an event similar to what you're doing to find it. They're not going to just stumble on it. Facebook, we put the information in front of people. They may not look at it, but we put it there. YouTube requires the person be searching for the topic, but you've already produced the reels and stories and you can just upload them, so it doesn't take a lot of effort. If you do that, pay particular attention to the description. And when you upload it, you'll see what I mean. This is how people search, the title and the description. And what you need to do is think about how people might be searching. They might search for your town name. They might search for a nearby town. Somebody could be just sitting there, just kind of randomly searching McDonough, Georgia. And you want your event to pop up. They could be searching dogs. They could be, whatever. So you want to have those words in your description. Again, I would not eliminate any Facebook tasks to do this, but if you have a person and time, it certainly doesn't hurt. It could help. I do not recommend Google Ads for this. Again, it's a second step platform, and in this case, you have to pay. Look around and see if your community has a community calendar. It may be on the town's website or Facebook page. This is a good use of 15 minutes to find it and post. Once you find it, you can easily post each time without any really further effort. I spoke a lot about non-social media, the TV, newspapers, etc. last time. And I gave you a couple examples of churches, small churches that got good newspaper coverage simply by asking. You can get newspaper coverage. Don't assume you can't. All right, going on a little more, we're narrowing down a little more specifically to the blessing of the animals. I recommend you do it earlier than normal. The St. Francis Day typically is the first weekend in October, or that's when it's celebrated. Other churches will be doing something that day, so do yours earlier. The newspaper is going to cover one blessing of the animal in your community. And if there's 5 or 6 happening all on the first weekend in October, it's just you don't know if you're going to get any coverage. Go a week or even 2 weeks earlier, plus the fact that other people you want to have involved, like the animal shelter, they'll be available more likely than when there's several other churches having an event. Invite many other organizations and businesses to be part of it. Start doing this today. Make your list tonight, start calling them tomorrow. Some examples, the animal shelter is an obvious one. Police canine unit can be great because they'll come and do a demonstration of what their dogs can find. They need to do that they need to keep their dogs trained. They need to do these kind of things on a regular basis anyway. So they'll come out and do it for you and the kids will love it. Veterinarian's obvious, dog walker, dog trainer, stores that sell supplies, high school, community college, university department that have some kind of relationship to the environment. Pony rides, petting zoo, two things that you probably end up charging for, and I think that's okay. I'll talk more about how that would work in just a second. Pet sitting. Most communities have somebody who will take care of your pets when you're out of town. I didn't know that there was pet acupuncture until I went to a Blessing of the Animals at Trinity in Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina. That's a fun one to talk about because most people don't know about it. Certainly kennels, groomers, pet clubs, fair cat society, cat cafe. Zoo is certainly a possibility. Community science centers, community leaders. And this last one, there's the address if you want to try it. But you have other manufacturers. I just did this on a whim. And it turns out they ended up sending me 3 coupons for $45 worth of two for dog supplies, one for cat supplies, $45 each. Now we've got something to have a drawing for. So how many should you invite? That's up to you and how much space you have. I would figure about 9 feet per display, 8 foot plus room between. Plus, remember, allow room for displays for your church. And I talked a lot about that last time. You might want to have a food truck or some kind of refreshment location. Now, what are you getting? You're giving them free advertising. Well, we're not going to ask them to pay anything in the sense of giving us cash, but rather encourage them to announce their presence in their communication network. The local animal shelter is likely to have an email address and a newsletter that goes out to more people than you know. So ask them to make a point of saying this is going on at your church on this day. And that one important reason to get started now is that the newsletters probably go out in early September, so we have to get there in plenty of time to get in there. Second of all the organizations, vendors should be asked to donate 1 or 2 things that you can have drawings for. You may put them together or you may have multiple drawings. The exception, of course, is the police, the animal shelter, the various clubs. But the veterinarian might donate some items they sell or a free checkup, something like that. The store might donate bags of food like I got from Purina. The pet sitter might donate 2 gift certificates. The pony ride and petting zoo. Now they're going to make money because you're letting them be there. Well, ask them to donate 2 gift certificates that you could have drawings for very early in the event. You get the idea. You can come up with lots and lots of things that you can both invite people to be part of and also to get items or certificates that you can have a drawing for. In fact, this, at least for the Blessing of the Animal, but really for most events, the more you can involve other organizations and businesses getting their help with publicity, getting items to give away, the more you can get them involved, the more likely you are to have an effective event. So start inviting them right away. The other thing to remember is each of these organizations or businesses are guests just as much as the neighbor down the block. Focus on them that way. If, let's say, 5 organizations attend, that means they each will probably bring 2 or 3 people with them. So that means you have 10 to 15 guests on the property before the first neighbor arrives. You already have a good turnout. Give them the opportunity to complete a contact card. 10 to 15 guests, some of those are interested in learning more about who you are. Give them that opportunity. Personally, I would let them be part of the drawing with the understanding that if they win something from their organization that they don't get it, they give that back. This I handed out to you last time. It's just a contact card, the format that I kind of like. It's a little clustered. It's a little busy. The ideas on the right, I would invite you to spend a moment looking over, because I think no matter how you do it, those are important principles to follow. Now, this is one I did, probably went too far the other way. This is what we used at our plant sale, but talk about minimalism. Just ask simply for the name and the phone number, and then had the opt-out option. I had the numbers this morning. I don't remember what they were, but less than 20% of the people opted out. People who handed in these forms, less than 20% said they did not want to get more information from our church. Hospitality and fun. Again, this applies to everything from Sunday morning to blessing of the animals to a yard sale. The details vary, but the concepts don't. Particularly for anything other than Sunday morning, you want them to stay long enough so you have a time to interact. And for Sunday morning, that would include the coffee hour. You'll be judged on the little things. The little things add up to define the word hospitality. So you want to have free water for humans. If you want to sell coffee and cookies for the youth group, I think that's okay, but make the water free. I think that's hospitable. Have water, walking area, poop bags for dogs anytime you're having something outside. Have your restrooms clearly marked, clean, and supplied. This is important, very important on Sunday mornings. I know some of our older churches in particular, it's hard to get to the restroom. You have to work around that. You may have to have multiple signs like a trail for people to find it. If you're doing something like the blessing of the animals outside, have enough chairs for the service and some extras scattered around. I like being a bit on the manipulative side. If I'm kind of thinking I'll probably have 50 people, I might put up 30 or 40 chairs, but then have a lot more folded up off to the side. The idea of having to run around, put up more chairs just makes it look exciting. Have chairs near places where kids might separate from parents, such as pony rides. The kids are going to be wandering around or riding on the pony or whatever. Have a place for the parents to sit down. Assume a crowd, so have a sound system. For the blessing of the animals, have a second or third person, probably at least two, or two additional people for a total of 3, available to help with the blessings in case you do have a crowd. Each blessing takes about 30 to 60 seconds, even if you hurry, and you don't really want to be hurrying. You don't want the whole service to go on too long. You'll lose people if it goes on too long. You want people to stay around, and I'll talk about why in a moment. Remember, anyone can pray. Now, I would vest them or do something to make them look official, just so it doesn't look like you yanked 3 people out of the crowd. Have the entire service printed out for everyone. Now, this is the case, I said, for chairs, I might not have quite enough put up. For the bulletins, I would try to make sure I have enough. Gently welcome and thank them for coming. That's what you do as they're gathering. You have trained people watching for anyone standing alone. By trained, I mean just people who are alert and will walk up and just say, "Hi, my name is Ken. Glad you're here today." A lot of times it doesn't take any more than that. I have a training video for being a host on Sunday mornings. if you'd like to see that, the same concepts apply for the blessing of the animals, the yard sale, whatever. And I've got some scripts for those people who say, I don't know what to say. Well, I've got some scripts written out for them in that video. And again, don't forget your guests who are displaying. Be hospitable for them. Don't make their job as easy as possible. Let them know how much space they'll have. Let them know if you can provide power. Go ahead and bring them water during the blessing of the animals or during whatever event. Invite them to the service. Don't just assume that they know they can come over. Walk over and invite them. Hey, we'd love to have you join us. Make it fun. Try to have a couple things kid-focused. I mentioned a police canine unit, always a hit. You might have a short and keep it down to a minute or two. What's the key to training your dog or caring for your pet? You could include some kids' games, a bounce house, water slide. If you have the yeah, I'll say it. The horseback, the pony rides. That's what I'm trying to get out. The pony rides of the petting zoo. Those are certainly great for the kids. Again, my thought, I would not do contests like best looking cat, simply because somebody will walk out being disappointed. On the other hand, if people bring something unusual, a snake or a bearded dragon or something like that, maybe ask them if they mind if people come up and talk to them and see that pet. No, make it clear that no, we'd rather not is reasonable. Set up a good photo background, offer to take photos so everyone's in it. Again, I allow photos as the blessings happen, even though it's during a worship service. Essentially, I still allow it. That's your clergy's choice. And again, I would bless photos of pets. And if someone brings a stuffed animal, I certainly am not going to turn a kid away, but that's me. The key is to talk this out ahead of time. Great thing to do is retirement centers to touch base with. Create a list of activity directors. Their title's going to vary from place to place at independent living retirement centers, and then stay in touch with them about anything, any activity, including special worship like Christmas Eve, Easter. Ask them how far in advance to announce the activity at their location. Do they have a monthly newsletter? When does it go out? Remembering that anyone can pray, take your blessing of the animals or other things on the road. Go to them. Holy Comforter in Charlotte, North Carolina does that. Takes the blessing of animals to a couple independent living retirement centers. Give them the opportunity to complete a contact card. That should card, not care. Sorry about that. Real quick, a little something on Halloween. This is, again, Holy Family in Laurel Springs, New Jersey. They have for the last 3 years, I believe, done a major event on Halloween. Now, they are located in a neighborhood, which makes it somewhat easier for them. There's a lot of people right nearby, a lot of houses nearby. One interesting thing they do, and I'll actually be putting together a little 30-minute on this and send it out to you, but they link Halloween with All Saints Day, which it should be linked. And these over here are votive candles, and people are invited to light a votive candle in memory of one of their loved ones, and then they're invited to write down the name, and that name is remembered during the worship service on All Saints Day. Which is really a nice little connection. And you can do it in such a way that the people have the opportunity to leave their contact information and you can follow up with them. So if John Smith says he wants his mother, Mary, to be remembered on All Saints Day and leaves their contact information, the Monday after All Saints Day, John Smith gets a quick little text. Just want you to know that we remembered your mother, Mary, during our All Saints day service. Great way to begin to build a relationship. Halloween is one of those that there's lots of things you can do to reach out. So very quickly, kind of in summary, we want to get their contact information. We can use drawings. The entry form is the contact card. I gave you lots of examples last time, and I just showed you a couple. During the event, have the leader invite people to fill out forms if they've not done so. And I gave you a script in the last webinar. One that's not on here, Lou and I were talking about earlier. If you're doing a yard sale, rummage sale, whatever, what we're doing at our church is every 20 minutes, we're going to have a drawing, $5 off anything you buy. So at the beginning of the 20 minutes, we announce that 20 minutes from now, we'll have a drawing, fill out these forms and enter your name. Then maybe 10 minutes later, a few minutes before the time is up, we announce it a second time and we make a drawing and then we start all over again. And we figure we'll probably do it 4 times during the morning, which would cost us a grand total of $20. And we're expecting to get a whole lot of contact information that way. For BOTA, as the blessings are ending, this is one of the reasons I wanted to have extra people involved. The leader, probably the clergy, leaves the blessing, stops doing the blessing, and grabs the microphone and thanks everyone for coming, thanks the organizations who came, probably not individually unless there's only a couple or 3. The clergy invites people to wander around, see what's available, and then mentions the drawing, and that the actual drawing will be whenever, in about 30 minutes probably is pretty close on most of it. Now, typically, you don't have to be present to win, but if you have dog items and cat items, they may need to be present to choose between which one they want. Within 24 to 36 hours, everyone who leaves their information should get a text thanking them for coming. And I gave you specific examples last time. And then, as I said, keep in communication, keep talking to them. You know, it's a matter of if you give up on them, they'll give up on you. If you stop talking to them, it's unlikely they'll come back and start talking to you. So here, as I'm closing out for tonight, and we'll have questions and answers in just a minute. A couple things I'm offering to you. I'd be happy to visit or Zoom with you, your leaders, a team, the vestry, whatever. No charge unless there's some major travel. I'd be happy to review your Facebook page or web page to give you an outsider's perspective. And on all of this, you can put a note in the chat or just email me. I offer to pay the cost of your texting service for up to a year. That'd be something in the order of $350. I'll put out and work alongside your person leading the texting effort. I'll work side by side so they know how easy it is until they feel comfortable doing it all by themselves. And finally, would you be interested in having cohorts, small groups that are in situations similar to yours? Would you want to talk to others in similar circles? So it might be a cohort of churches that have an average Sunday attendance under 30 or over 150 or near a military base or near a higher learning institution or whatever. You tell me what you're interested in. I will get the word out and see if there's other people interested. We'll set up maybe a monthly Zoom or something. This is brand new idea. I'm just trying it out. And as always, the first thing you do before every step is pray. Now, I try to always emphasize we're not praying that other people be changed. We're not praying, dear Lord, make those people understand they should come worship with us. No, what we're doing is we should be praying that we be changed, that we become the people that are attractive to that new person, that we become the Christian that new person wants to get to know and become a community they want to become part of. We pray that we live up to the goals, the dreams God has for us. we pray that we be changed. All right. We got some time for questions and answers, as much time as you want. So if people would unmute themselves. And questions, comments, suggestions, ideas that are better. But let me begin by asking Betsy. Betsy does the events for
Yes.
Holy Family. Do you want to add anything to what I said about Facebook events?
One of the things that I would say, and I don't know if people picked up on this, when you're including, like when you had your 5 posts on there and each one was for a different person, tag their Facebook page as well, because then it's not only showing up on your Facebook, but at the same time it's showing up on theirs. And in some cases, you may want to ask them if they want to be listed as a co-host.
Good.
Because
Thank you. I forgot that.
That's another way to get out there. The other thing that I would say too is when you're looking at groups in your area. So the one church that I work at is right next to a development. That development has its own Facebook group. On their Facebook group, on their rules, it says it's only for people that live in the development. I actually went in and contacted the admin and say, I don't live in your development, but our church backs right up to your development. Would it be possible for us to occasionally post some of our events in your page? And they were very open to it. I was very upfront with them, like, I'm not going to post church services, but like when we have our yard sales and things like that. And they're like, absolutely. And they let me join the group. So sometimes groups that may seem like they're closed to you, if you contact the admins and are just honest with what you want to put in there, they'll agree to that.
Mm-hmm. I've had a similar circumstance where I can't remember what rule I was theoretically breaking, but I wrote the admin and I said, when he refused to post something, which is how you find out you broke the rule. And I said, I don't know what I did wrong. Please tell me. And we got in a nice conversation. He ended up reposting what I originally did. You know, he just misunderstood it. And then I was clearer in the future.
And I think a lot of it is just stay with it.
Yep. Stay with it. That's the clue. Others. If I wrote down anything.
Ken?
Shirley, was there anything in the chat?
Yeah, I was going to say, Lisa Walker put in the chat, I'm interested in learning from others who've connected with their local college students. And that's a great idea. And, you know, anybody who has, you know, that'd be a good person to talk to. So, yeah. Or if you know of anybody who has.
Yeah. I know there's 3 or 4 churches that have been in this group that are near colleges. They're not chaplain to the college, but they're trying to be a connection to the college. And I think that's one of the cohorts that'd be fun to see what kind of ideas we can share. I know one of them went out of their way to ask college students to help with the blessing of the animals last year. Just a way to kind of get, you know, ask them to help out for 2 hours. You know, don't ask them to join the vestry or anything, but just something really simple. And got some good positive reaction.
I just might mention, if you are not in walking distance to a college, if you have some way that you could get the information out on the college campus, if you have people in your church that would be willing to pick up college students who want to come to services, you know, I don't know how, I guess this particular student contacted Ken, but I ended up picking up a student and bringing them to church services for a couple of years while they were in college. And they were actually a pretty faithful visitor on Sunday evenings.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that letting people know what you have available to help them get that out there.
Yeah. The fun ones are the college students that when they become seniors the week before graduation, they bring their parents, and you got to pretend they've been there a lot. We had one at our church, and it wasn't a college student. She's a teacher, but I think first, second year teaching, was at church Sunday with her parents, and we all pretended she came all the time.
I'm going to say goodnight. I don't have any questions at the moment. I took a lot of notes and I have some work to do.
Okay. If you do that, Lou, with your rummage sale, let me know how it goes.
Okay. I will. I asked for information from you earlier, but I'll get it when you can.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody. Good to see you.
All right. And if no one else has anything, I, don't want to tie up people's evenings unless it's being helpful. All right. I will be sending out things over the next couple or 3 weeks, just additional resources. And I'll try to send them in small batches so I don't overwhelm you all at once. But if you have any questions, if there's anything I didn't get out to you that would be of interest, please let me know. I really enjoy doing this. I enjoy helping you, and I want you to be effective. So just let me know what I can do to help.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much. Appreciate
Good
it.
night.
You're welcome. Good
All right.
night.
Goodbye.